I'm calling it now because I'm seeing the signs. The left is going to start running with the narrative that DEI is the new N-word. That's right. If you have criticism about diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're going to say this is a racist dog whistle. So let's go ahead and clear things up today in this video. DEI is not the new N-word. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe. Again, on this channel, we're going to be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion because the left is now running with this narrative that if you call out DEI or insinuate that somebody is a DEI hire, you are in fact using a new version of the N-word. Hard R, I guess. But to get into today's topic, I guess I have to re-explain what DEI is, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're going to have Wikipedia help us out a little bit, and we'll go on to describe how DEI practices are implemented in today's society. Wikipedia says diversity, equity, and inclusion are organizational frameworks which seek to promote the fair treatment and full participation of all people. We'll talk about whether or not it's actually fair in a moment. Particularly groups who have been historically underrepresented or subject to discrimination on the basis of identity or disability. And that's why there are these three notions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because apparently we want to include all, but what we actually find out is that the exercise of diversity, equity, and inclusion actually involves a whole lot of discrimination and a whole lot of unfairness. Oftentimes when you hear the letters DEI, they'll be associated with things like affirmative action, a discriminatory practice, diversity quotas, another discriminatory practice, or anything like preferential hiring or preferential treatment in general given to a particular marginalized group. Again, discrimination. Now, despite the fact that they're saying DEI is the new N-word, DEI actually applies to a whole lot of different marginalized identities. It can be on the basis of race, gender, sexuality, disability. There's a whole wide scope of different reasons DEI could be applied. And we've known about DEI for a long time. We've been talking about it and criticizing it for quite some time, while the left has been pedestalizing it and talking about how it's such a wonderful practice and it's going to even the playing field for all marginalized identities and bring fairness and equity to our new world. But now the left is telling a different story. They're saying that if you criticize DEI or talk about it, you're in fact a racist who is using the N-word. I guess that must be what I am, a half-black racist who is using the N-word. Hard R. Of course, we know that's not true, but let's go ahead and break down some of the arguments that the left is now making about DEI and watch some videos. Quick reminder before we watch these videos, and I know I've covered this already, DEI is active discrimination. It is racism playing out in civil society. But now they're going to flip the script and call you racist for criticizing it.
DEI is black, or gay, or feminine, or disabled, or poor.
This woman who is literally a DEI hire.
The point is, DEI is the right's latest dog whistle, the alphabetical successor to CRT, ESG, and SJW. When said to the right audience, DEI means replacing white men with black women, hardworking farmers with communist drag queens. It's probably gonna make your kid gay, or at least a Chappell Roan fan. DEI is everything your estranged father is terrified of, but with a corporate sounding label so he can say it in public.
What does that sound like? The witch trials, except they replaced drowning with racial justice. You die by DEI either way.
Earlier this month, I talked about how the right would struggle if Kamala Harris ran for president. So this week for Mother Jones, I'm going to dive into what DEI actually is, its real definition, what it means to Republicans, and how it's evolved from previous dog whistles. In reality, DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It often refers to inclusion policies, like the ones you'd see at companies or at a school. These can relate to someone's gender, age, sexual orientation, disability status, and a ton of other personal identifiers.
What she means by inclusion practices is discrimination practices. They're actively discriminating against a group of people to pedestalize another group of people and give them a leg up. That is how DEI is actually utilized in practice. So while they're going to say that the right is criticizing DEI because it's taking away white male opportunities and stepping on their privilege, the real reason that DEI is being criticized emphasized is because it's getting rid of fairness and merit. If we start taking superficial identity characteristics into account in everything we do, life will no longer be about merit, about the best rising to the top. It will be about people of a certain race, disability status, or gender rising to the top. We used to have a message of fighting for equality in this country. Now we're fighting for equity, and equality and equity are two very different things. We're no longer leveling the playing field. We're giving certain groups of people a leg up and pushing the others down. It's not progression, it's regression. We're in fact moving back to the Jim Crow South that we worked our way out of in this country. But still, they're going to say, if you have these very valid criticisms, that you're in fact a racist. And I'm seeing this coming, and I know it's going to be a big talking point because I see more and more people saying the exact same phrase or something to a similar effect, that DEI is the new N-word. Let's read some tweets.
DEI is just the new N-word. So DEI has become their new N-word?
So, DEI is the new N-word with a hard R. If you're using it, you are a racist. Point blank, period, no damn exceptions.
I don't expect much of the national media, but please, can they just be very clear and upfront about the fact that DEI is the right's new substitute for the N-word? It's very obvious. There's no point in pretending there's any ambiguity or doubt. Just treat it like the fact it is.
They've been using DEI as the replacement for the N-word for a long time. Same with woke and critical race theory.
This is a right-wing campaign that's going to be racist, misogynistic against the vice president. They want to call her a DEI president or DEI candidate. She has more experience than Trump and J.D. Vance combined times a million, right? So these are just racist dog whistles. Whenever you hear DEI, I want you to think about the N-word. I want you to think about racial slurs. That's what they actually mean.
And what they mean by DEI, in my opinion, is duly elected incumbent. We know what they want to say, but they don't have the courage to say the N-word.
Guys, don't fall for this reframing. If you have valid concerns about the re-implementation of active segregation in this country, you are not in the wrong. The people who are willing to call you a racist on the other end of those concerns are the ones who are wrong. DEI has its claws dug deep into this country now, so much so that the woman running for president in this country is a DEI hire. Point blank, period. But if you say the words DEI hire out loud, just know that you're going to get this pushback from the left. Even Donald Trump himself was confronted over his supporters' use of the letters DEI. Let's watch.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah.
Let's pause. Just note, she did not give a definition there. She just explained what the letters DEI stand for. No definition.
Go ahead. Is that what your definition?
Give me
a definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition of
Sir,
that.
I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She has always identified as a Black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
Black
one.
college.
Okay, so there's the clip. The fact that that journalist had no idea how to define diversity, equity, and inclusion might even point to the idea that she is a DEI hire herself. And that's coming from a biracial woman. So are you guys gonna call me a racist as well and say I'm utilizing the new N-word? The fact of the matter is Kamala Harris and many others are DEI hires. They're hired because of their diversity. In Kamala Harris's case, it's because of her race and her gender. In fact, Joe Biden said it himself that he was specifically looking out for a Black woman to be his running mate. This meant that the race and the gender of the person he was choosing as his running mate took priority over their actual skills and experience. That's why we get Kamala Harris, somebody who was dramatically unpopular, even by the left standards, and is now possibly going to be the next president of the United States. Not because she was chosen by the people, but because the regime selected her. And Joe Biden is no stranger to doing this. When he was picking out his Supreme Court nominee, he said that he was looking specifically for a black woman. He wasn't emphasizing merit. He wasn't emphasizing skills. He wanted somebody black and he wanted somebody female. Now, don't fall for the trap here. This does not mean that you are labeling all black women as unskilled or unqualified. And it does not mean that they are incapable of doing certain jobs. It just means that we should not emphasize looking for people of a certain race, gender, or disability status when trying to give out a job. We should look for merit, accomplishments, morals, values, character. That matters far more and should be prioritized far more than somebody's race and gender. In fact, I'd argue that race and gender shouldn't be prioritized at all, but here we are. So again, I'll say it, you are not racist if you share this critique. You are reasonable and rational, and you should not let them tell you otherwise. And DEI is not just being applied when it comes to who could possibly be the next president of the United States. It is utilized all throughout government, our public institutions, our education system, in different corporations, virtually anywhere that you can think of, DEI is being utilized these days. It boils people down to these superficial characteristics and places them on a hierarchy where certain people with different characteristics are more valuable and get you more DEI points than other people do. It is antithetical to our nation's mission and values and our long-held fight for equality. We are moving backwards in time, day after day. And now, instead of allowing us to state that fact, to have an open conversation about whether or not DEI is right for this country's future, you are now going to be called a racist for even trying to open up the conversation. And that is wrong. And it's even more wrong that it almost takes somebody who looks like me to say this out loud in order to alleviate the threat of being called a racist on the other end of talking about this. It's not gonna work on me, and don't let it work on you. DEI is not the new N-word. You know what it really is? A disastrous set of ideas, and it's going to set this country so far back that we won't even know what to do going forward. But those are just my thoughts. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, I encourage healthy debate, so if you disagree with anything said in this video, duke it out, but do so respectfully. But just know that if you disagree with something that I've said, I'm just gonna call you a racist and say you're utilizing a new form of the N-word. That seems to be the way that we do it these days. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.